Hi, everyone. So, I have a Christmas card to share with you today. I am using the Gnome for the Holiday stamp set from Honeybee Stamps to make this card. So, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to stamp all the images onto my card panel with some Memento black ink, which is a Copic friendly ink. And then I'm going to mask off the images after I stamp them because I'm going to be putting in a pretty deep, dark blue background. We're going to have an evening sky, and I didn't want that color to bleed into the characters, and I wanted to color a little bit messy, as you'll see, because it's a quicker method for coloring for me other than having to kind of weave my way in and out along the little hats and the gnomes' bodies and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get started by laying down the color for our night sky. So I started with B21 and then I moved up to B24. And my B24 is a little bit dry, as is the B26 that I'm going to use next. So then I just decided to kind of go right into B28 and B29, the two darkest colors for the night sky, instead of refilling my markers. So we're going to have a pretty dark night sky. So I'm just going to go over everything with the B28 and then around the top edges with the B29. And then that is it. I'm going to peel off the masks. I also made a mask for the ground as well, just by cutting like a hill into some masking paper that I had, like a hill shape, like curvy lines sort of. And now we can go ahead and color in our little gnomes. So this little gnome is going to have a black hat because a little bit of the blue did get underneath the mask there. So I just decided to fix it by making him have a dark colored hat. Then I'm going to give them all some green eyes. And I'm going to color in the holly with my green as well. So that's G09 and then G29 for the contrast color. I like these colors for Christmas. It's a real pretty bright and deep green. And then for our little berries, I'm just going to use R27 on those. And we are going to color in our little gnome on the right with some green. So those same greens that we use for the holly. I'm trying to use as few colors as possible for this card, just so that it is somewhat cohesive. I didn't want to color all the gnomes in with the same colored clothing. I did want them to have some different colored clothes on, but I did try to use as few colors as possible anyway, just so that there wasn't so much variation, I guess. I wanted things to look a little bit cohesive, but again, having them at least have their own little outfits. So I was just playing around there by adding a glaze with the YG13 to his hat. Didn't really do much, so I don't think that you need to do that. So I'm just kind of coloring over it with my cool grays. For his beard, I'm going to use some flicking motions with my Copics, and I'm going to use C5 to start, and then some C3, and then some C7 for the darkest areas. And then underneath his mustache, I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow at that C5 and darken it up even more with some C7, just so it looks like his mustache is sitting on top of his beard there. And then for our Santa gnome in the middle, we're going to give him a little bit different colored beard. So I'm using my warm grays here. So these two beards right next to each other give you a good sense of how different the cool grays are from the warm grays with Copics. So the little gnome in green has a cool gray beard, and then this little gnome in the middle has a warm gray beard. So as you can see, the warm gray Copics kind of look almost brown ish, where the cool gray Copics look more almost like they have like a blue or a purplish tint to them. For the little gnome lady, we're just going to give her some blonde hair. So I'm just using some Y15, a little Y24, and then I'm going to color in her candy cane with some R27. And then her little dress is going to be R83 and R87. So real simple color scheme here. And then her little stockings, I thought she should have candy cane stockings. So I just colored in her stockings with some red, alternating with little white spots in between. And then for her scarf, I thought we'd give her a purple scarf. And again, this is where I always have difficulty with my Copics with the purples. I just can never find the right shade here. So I started with V22 and V25 and it was dull. So I tried to brighten it up with some BV02. Later on, we'll go back over it even with some I think 15 and 17 to try to brighten it a little. Now moving on to our little gnome in the center. So I wanted him to look a little like Santa Claus, so I'm coloring in with some red. So that's R39 for my darkest shade. I'm going to color the outline of his body with that. And then my midtone is this R29, and I'm just going to bring that towards the center and then blend it in further with the R24. And whenever I do my reds, I like to have that YR12 as my highlight color. I just prefer that to just the white of the paper. I think it makes reds look like they're glowing when you add that little bit of a highlight with the YR12. Okay, so now we're just going to color in his little gnome shoes. His little curly shoes are so cute with the same colors we used to color in his body. And for the little belt buckle, we'll make it gold. And then the belt itself and his gloves we'll make black, and we'll make his little stockings black as well. And I'm just going to darken that up with C9 is the darkest color that I'm using here for the black. And then the little gnome, the little green gnome, I'm going to darken up his hat a little bit too with that C9. And then go over everything with C7. And then I'm just adding a little bit of shadow with my C0 and C5 on the little fluffy balls of their hats. And then for our little Christmas trees, we're going to color the base with some E25 and E27. And then the tree itself is E47, the wooden part of the tree. And then for the leaves of the tree, we're going to use YG03 for the base. And I kind of colored just over everything. It is such a light color that it didn't really impact the red on the berries too much. And then I'm using YR67 here, or YG67 for the little fir needles on our trees. And then we're going to brighten it up a little by adding some YG07 fir needles. And then just for a little bit more interest, I added some needles with the YG17. And now for the snowdrifts, I'm just taking my BG10 marker, just making some squiggly little lines in the background and then under their feet to make it look like they're standing in snow and there's a little bit of an indentation. Then we'll add a little shadow as well under the feet with that C3. And we'll add it under the trees as well so that they look like they're sitting in the snow. And then just a little BV000 on the edges and the bottom just to make the whole picture look extra chilly. Now for our sentiment, we're going to use the Noel sentiment from the stamp set. And I'm just stamping it with Versamark ink. And then I'm going to take some white embossing powder. And then we'll heat set that sentiment with a heat gun in a second. And I just love how just crisp and clean that white embossing powder looks against the deep blue evening wintry sky. And then I thought this scene needed a little snow, so I'm just going to add snow in the background with a white gel pen. This is a Signo Uniball gel pen. If you wanted to make it look like the little characters are in the middle of the snowy scene, you could just put little drops of snow on top of them as well, but I just wanted it to look like the snow is all the way in the background. So I didn't put snow on top of little figures. And then I'm just going to attach everything to a card base. And that's it. So here is our card, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I really hope you give this card a try. It's a lot of fun to make. It is great for mailing because there's no foam tape at all. It's just all one single layer. All right, I will see you again soon in another video. Have a great day.